estate of the realm, you always live to your responsibilities and to the... Another in the series of our constant engagement with the press, particularly through you to the Nigerian people, because we know we have a duty to them, and to have this constant engagement so that you can help Nigerian people make determination about how the direction we go in 2023 and beyond for our nation, and to ensure that, again, we can together work for the progress of our country by reviewing where we are and how we want to proceed. Because 2023 is very critical for our nation about how well we go. Whether we continue in this state as being one nation that is united, indivisible, where every person, every citizen would have a sense of belonging. So this afternoon I want to thank you once again for being here. So this is a test of my interactive meeting with you. And of course, it will be thereafter interactive, as the name says, so we can have conversation beyond me just speaking. So as a gentleman of the press, as you are aware, the PDP presidential campaign has been recording unprecedented success since our flag off in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State on Monday, October 10, 2022. Despite the unrelenting attacks by the All Progressive Congress, as witnessed in our presidential campaign rallies in Kaduna and Borno states, our party has remained undeterred in the bid to rescue our nation from the suffocating misrule of the APC. However, as we prepare for the 2023 general elections, the APC is busy scheming to create tension, induce violence, frustrate the conduct of the 2023 general elections, and derail our democratic process, having realized that it does not have an eligible, note that word, an eligible presidential candidate for the polls. It is no longer news that the presidential candidate of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is irredeemably and hopelessly ineligible to contest the February 2023 presidential election, having been reportedly indicted and subjected to criminal forfeiture judgment for a narcotic-related offense by a United States court. Nigerians are, however, appalled by the lame attempt by the APC presidential campaign, which, after admitting that there was a $460,000 drug money criminal forfeiture judgment against accounts traced to the APC presidential candidate, is now desperately trying to pull a wool over the eyes of Nigerian people and our democratic institutions. Seeing that it is technically out of the presidential contest, and further destroyed because it cannot also field candidates at all levels in the 2023 general election due to its illegal and unconstitutional congresses, the APC has resorted to unleashing hoodlums to attack PDP presidential campaign rallies and other innocent Nigerians going about their legitimate endeavors as witnessed in Kaduna and Borno State in a bid to trigger crisis and scuttle the elections. There are already apprehensions in the public space of unrefuted allegations that the APC is behind the orchestrated attack on the independent National Electoral Commission offices in Ogun and Osun states. The plan of the APC is to instill fear in the citizenry, disorganize and weaken other political parties, frighten, hamstring, and immobilize INEC from conducting the 2023 general elections. The APC must know that its schemes, denial, threats, and resort to violence cannot help Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. For emphasis, by Section 137(1)(d) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, Asiwaju Tinubu is not eligible to contest the presidential election in Nigeria. For emphasis, I need to quote that section for you. Section 137(1)(d) of the 1999 Constitution as amended provides that a person shall not be qualified for election to the office of president if D, subsection D now, is under a sentence of death imposed by any competent court of law or tribunal in Nigeria, or a sentence of imprisonment or fine for any offense involving dishonesty or fraud by whatever name called, or for any other offense imposed on him by any court. The first one is court or tribunal in Nigeria. The second one is on him by any court or tribunal or substituted by a competent authority for any other sentence imposed on him by such a court or tribunal. For clarity, forfeiture means, and I quote, something to which the right is lost, as for commission of a crime or misdeed, neglect of duty, or violation of a contract. So what it means is this: you cannot forfeit something to which you are legally entitled to. If you legally own something, you can't forfeit it, except for commission of a crime or for a breach of duty, like in a contract. If, for instance, you go to a bank and pledge your property as a mortgage, and then you default in the repayment of this, what is due under the mortgage, then the bank can legally forfeit it. It is instructive to note that trafficking in narcotics is an international crime to which all nations are obliged and mandated to apprehend, prosecute, and enforce any judgment or court imposed on offender. Nigeria, being a signatory to International Convention on Trafficking in Narcotics, is obliged to enforce any order or judgment imposed on any offender by any competent court anywhere in the world. And for emphasis, I just need to emphasize this so that you can have the purport of this order. The United States Court in Northern Illinois, Chicago, ordered, and you listen to this carefully, it says, it is ordered, and this was on October 4, 1993. And I read, it said, the said Bola Ahmed Tinubu forfeited $460,000 as captured in the following words. This is the word of the court. It said, ordered that the fund in the amount of $460,000 in account number 263-226-700 held by First Heritage Bank in the name of Bola Tinubu represents proceeds of narcotic trafficking or were involved in financial transactions in violation of 18 U.S.C.S. 1956 and 1957, and therefore these funds are forfeited to the United States pursuant to 21 U.S.C. S. 88(1) A clause 6 and 18 U.S.C. S. 981 in that order. So it's a clear statement that it was found to be trafficking and the proceeds of narcotic trafficking. And it can't be clearer. Having been sentenced and fined by way of criminal forfeiture of $460,000, drug money in a criminal suit filed pursuant to the United States Criminal Code, Asiwaju Tinubu cannot, by virtue of Section 137(1)(d) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, seek office as President of Nigeria. Nigeria now knows that the APC presidential campaign announcement that its presidential candidate will not participate in media debates is to prevent Nigerians from seeking answers from Asiwaju Tinubu with respect to the criminal forfeiture judgment, as well as other burning issues to which Nigerians are entitled to know. Of course, our nation cannot afford the embarrassment the shame, the national indignity, and stigma associated with narcotics all over the world, especially in the exalted office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Nigeria cannot handle the massive negative collateral damage such will have on our national image, economy, as well as on the businesses and legitimate endeavors of hardworking Nigerians. What Nigerians expect of Asiwaju Tinubu at this moment is to withdraw from the presidential race and apologize to the nation. The APC must come to terms that it is not in the presidential race and that it has no legitimate candidate at all levels in the 2023 general elections as pronounced by the Federal High Court with regards to the candidature of the governor of Osun State, an order and the judgment that is still subsisting. The PDP therefore reminds Nigerians that any vote for the APC at the presidential, the governorship, national and state assembly elections are wasted votes that will not count at the end of the day. The PDP calls on INEC not to succumb to the blackmail of the APC, but to be focused and carry on its duties in accordance with the Constitution and the Electoral Act, so as to engender confidence in the citizens with respect to integrity of those seeking public office in the country. Our party appreciates the solidarity and support being shown by Nigerians across board to our presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar, his running mate, Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, and other candidates of the PDP in the mission to rescue, rebuild, and redirect our nation for the misrule of the APC. I thank you so very much for listening. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead. INEC is a public body that owes its existence and legitimacy to the Nigerian people. It was the creation of Acts of Parliament and, of course, the Constitution, because it's a body recognized under the Constitution. And the chairman of INEC and all his officers swore to defend and protect the provision of that Constitution. Related to that is that Nigeria as a country is a signatory to various conventions, particularly of crimes that are considered to be international crimes, one of which is trafficking in narcotics. The other one is trafficking in human person. The other one is money laundering. The other one is terrorism. And so every country in the world has a duty, is obliged, having subscribed to those conventions, international convention. So, INEC being an organ of Nigerian state that has sworn an obligation to do everything necessary to ensure that the prosecution, the arrest, and execution of orders of court all over the world for each of those international crimes, of which narcotics actually, like a crime, must do that which is necessary, because it's in obeying international order, it's in obeying the Constitution which is defended. And so we have encouraged INEC because we're conscious of that release yesterday. And that's why we said we're calling on INEC not to succumb to blackmail. And in any event, INEC has a duty, and I'm sure the leadership of INEC recognizes that the integrity of the 2023 general election and people that are going to hold office is key to our survival as a nation. And of course, the way the international community will look at us. We said in this statement, the indignity, the disgrace, the embarrassment that could accrue if we are seen in the world as condoning or refusing to perform our obligation under a convention that we signed. I think no government, no country will do that, particularly in this era where the whole world is a global village. You can hear ourselves. So we are going to call on INEC again to ensure that it obey the Constitution, the conventions, and the expectation as an agency of the Nigerian government that has signed into all those conventions, You recall in 2010 or thereabout, when there was a bomb blast at the Independence Day, Mr. Hawker was arrested in South Africa. He wasn't present in Nigeria. And the argument in the court was that, oh, I was not there, so you couldn't have arrested me. But they said, no, because South Africa has obligation under the convention for this international crime, of which terrorism is one. They tried him, and they convicted him, legally so. Because ordinarily, in legal parlance, you must be said to have been connected to a crime. But when we know that sometimes physical connection might be difficult to establish, then we come with the issue of conspiracy. Conspiracy is very light because you can actually conspire with persons unknown under the law. You can conspire with people you have never met before. So we say conspiracy with persons unknown, and you'll be charged appropriately. So INEC has a duty. I know it's headed by responsible people. We know and we trust in their judgment, and we know that they owe this nation that duty, because now it's the right time for them to become independent, do that which is important in the interest of Nigeria, not for individual or for a party.
INEC does not do anything that you're calling for. Do you think the party would like to challenge?
We're always very we're very hopeful, and I've told you severally here, what we decide to do as a party, we don't consult you, we tell you. When we started the case against Oshun, we didn't tell you, all right? So we will look at the issues, and we will take decision and action based on the exigency of the time, the requirement, and the need to protect our constitution and our electoral process. So you leave that to us.
Don't you think you are playing to the Ghana by calling on INEC to do what it cannot do? Because INEC does not have the power. It can only obey order of court.
Yeah.
If you go to court now and the court issues an order to INEC, you comply with the judgment. But now you are calling, you are just jumping, you are playing to the gallery. Nobody will obey that. INEC will just be laughing at you.
I like that. I mean, this is your own judgment.
Comment would add to that, because a forfeiture doesn't necessarily mean that it's a judgment against a particular individual, because INEC, as it stands right now, especially looking at the law, you know, when it comes to what being bound and all of that, until an individual probably takes up that judgment, goes to a court of competent jurisdiction here in Nigeria. You've raised a section of the Constitution, speaking about Section 131 and 137 of the Nigerian Constitution. But at the end of the day, my question to you directly needs to be, you've actually raised that the candidate of the APC had to forfeit some certain amount of money due to certain infractions on the Constitution in the US.
Correct.
At the end of the day, that might not be applicable here, because if you look at that INEC's statement yesterday, it was clear. It says, you know what, they're not an investigating institution.
Yes.
It is not within its powers to investigate. So INEC can only decide to move further than where it is right now if there is a judgment.
Every option is on the table. Okay? Every option is on the table. And so I will leave it at that. However, there's some clarity that I want to make. To say that a court in the United States is not a competent, it's not of competent jurisdiction is what I need to address. And I address it, I need to emphasize on that. I need to say this. I reference international crimes, an international convention to which Nigeria is a signatory. When we wanted to do the issue of trafficking, there was a convention, and countries were encouraged to domesticate those laws into the acts. And now you have several things about money laundering, decree on the law. It was made as an act of parliament, which means those conventions have been domesticated, and you have obligation. So the issues like this cannot be a challenge. Second, narcotics, trafficking narcotics is one of such. That's why with the NDLA and other agencies of government to enforce that, because they've been domesticated. They are international conventions. Those crimes are described as international crimes, to which every member state of the United Nations is a signatory, and they are obligated to to do that. And our concern was so clear about that. It talks about court or tribunal in Nigeria. And it said, by any court. So that's any other court, or any other court, which by my interpretation and by extension of the Constitution is any other court consistent with those international conventions and international crimes. So any other court. All we need to do, like you requested, is that we will study that, and if there are appropriate actions that need to be taken, it will be taken. But like I said to you, every option is on the table. On the sorry?
A forfeiture is not an indictment.
Well, I'll read it for benefit of this for clarity.
Yes.
This is the document relating to the case in America, and I'll read it to you. It says, United States District Court of Northern District of Illinois, Eastern Division. United States of America, plaintiff. Versus funds in account 263226700 held by First Heritage Bank in the name of Bola Tinubu defendants. I don't know if it can be clearer than that. All right? That's it. It's clear. There's no ambiguity as to who the parties are, who the plaintiff is, or who the defendant is. So these are proceedings of a court of competent jurisdiction in the United States. And if we now extend it to the fact that this is an international crime to which Nigeria is obligated on the convention and to which it has domesticated its own law to talk about the NDLA Act, then we have obligation to. And therefore, if the INEC is a creation of the Constitution, and the INEC leadership, by the chairman and others, had sworn to obey and to abide by that Constitution and enforce it, then of course, it follows from that. Yes.
No, the last part of our question,
Which is the problem? Yeah.
The attacks.
Well, when this attack, well, I tell you from personal experience, I was involved in the Kaduna thing, but it was closer home in Borno because I was in the bus that was shot at. Why there were no facility was that gun was a Dane gun. We saw it. It's not as if they reported. The reporter embedded in our own campaign from Arise TV, news channel, was in that, and she got wounded in the process. She fell in the box. So, and I can tell you this, and this is not anything. I have not seen any concrete evidence or statement by APC refuting it. Very lame, just like it happened in Kaduna. And the question to ask, why is it that only when we go to APC state that we have this encounter? And we have reported, because we're a law-abiding party, we don't do self-help. We're not used to creating, and the fingers are very clear, particularly in Borno. We have a DNA of people, leadership, that are completely at home with violence. You recall the beginning, we know who was governor when Boko Haram got to its peak. We recall the Chibok girls. There were, and these are facts, not me, they're in the public domain. There were security reports when Kashim Shettima was governor. And there were memos from the then Minister of State in Education, the current governor of Rivers State, writing to alert the state and advising that the Chibok girls should be moved to Maiduguri, a safer environment, so that they can write the exams. It was ignored. And you will recall, it's in the public domain, not me making it up, that the principal of that school where the girls were abducted was subsequently alleged to have been compensated by being promoted to a commissioner. I mean, those are questions we should be asking. Nigerians are interested in this. We need to interrogate those issues. So there's a seeming DNA for violence from a particular sort of leadership in the APC. And from what I witnessed, and this is on my honor, you can seek it from other people, the pictures are there, the videos are there, the evidence are there. from the airport, at major intersection and roundabout, you find them waving APC flags, shouting that right there, as if they had a campaign. And they went with us all the way to the Shehu of Borno's palace. And we were victims of this. We saw it. And so I don't see what other evidence than this. What you see in the mirror is what you see. It was APC that we saw in the mirror.